Turning to other news, keeping a close eye on Canada's upcoming federal election, also on the pulse here in this country. Remember that we are just 3 months away. Question being, of course, what are the issues that are going to matter most to Canadians? I'm now joined by political analyst Michael Geoghegan. He is in Williams Lake, British Columbia. Good afternoon to you, Michael.
Good afternoon.
So we are still in summertime mode, but you know, as journalists and analysts such as yourself, we have to sort of ask our questions. You know, what are the big issues that are going to be in the minds on Canadians' minds this federal election? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's several things that are going to be on the minds of Canadians. One of them is going to be who is going to give me the best deal in terms of making ends meet. You know, that combination of who's going to be the most reasonable on taxes, who's going to allow me to get ahead in terms of wage gains, who's going to do the best job for the environment, who's going to do the best job for healthcare, who's going to actually invest in our infrastructure. I think there's a lot of bread and butter issues that are coming up because more and more Canadians are struggling to make ends meet.
What are we seeing then in terms of that and that list that you've got there, the strategies that we're seeing on the two parties? And I'm going to say two parties right now because we're really seeing this, and you and I have talked about this as perhaps being a two-party race, though we do need to talk about the Liberals and the Greens and the People's Party here. But we've got the Liberals on the one hand saying Andrew Scheer is Harper 2.0. The Conservatives are trying to tie Trudeau to the SNC-Lavalin affair and how his focus is on big corporations. How do you envision their campaigns unfolding?
Well, I think the Conservatives are trying, and Scheer is trying to portray himself very much as a blue collar, came out of an ordinary Canadian kind of background, and contrast that with Justin Trudeau, son of a prime minister, kind of a trust fund kid, as it were, right. A life of privilege and ease versus someone who worked their way up. I think one of the things that works against Scheer and the Conservatives, however, in terms of getting that blue-collar vote, is they seem to have a somewhat hostile attitude towards unions. They want to see unions have more public scrutiny, as Harper did when he was prime minister, but scrutiny that's even in excess of what we expect from government organizations. So I think that works against him. I think if they can modify their position on that, they'd make a lot more headway with union and blue-collar households. I think for Trudeau. Obviously, the SNC-Lavalin did major damage, but now they're sort of coming out of that. They're neck and neck with the Conservatives, and I think they're as much as possible trying to portray the Conservatives as being kind of like the Republican light party in Canada. The Trump administration remains deeply unpopular in Canada, so I think they're going to try and portray that kind of, try and tar the Conservatives with that brush as much as possible.
Michael, how do you think they are going to, and I'm talking all parties here, in this election, reach out to that younger voter? Those voters now, 4 years ago, were not able to vote, and now they are. And we know that a lot of younger voters are very issue-focused, but not necessarily politically focused. So how are they going to kind of delve into that new younger wave?
I think it has to come down to policy. It's going to be a very interesting election where style is going to matter much less than it has in previous election, and it's going to be policies. Right. It's going to be things like the Conservatives, on the one hand, rescinding the carbon tax, and people are, again, like they're struggling to make ends meet. They don't really want to pay a carbon tax. It's not that they don't care about the environment, but they want to see policies where we are doing things that are positive for the environment. They just don't want more money coming out of their pocket because they don't have it to spare. And also in terms of who's going to be, the job creation and who's going to deal with the housing crisis, because now we have a situation where more and more Canadians are struggling not just to buy a home, but even find affordable rental accommodation. That's a huge crisis that our nation has, and I think it's going to take some focus at the national level as well as provincial and not just local government level.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there, but there'll be a lot to talk about leading into October. Michael Geoghegan, always a pleasure. Thanks a lot for your time today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.